Bro, you're so trash. I'm trash, you are a.
You will be surprised to know that this is the story of most duos in Fortnite. And duos might as well be the most popular game mode in Fortnite, especially in comp. So in this video I will be giving 15 tips to play like the best duo possible. Starting off with the first and one of the most important point, which is diagonal box fighting on the opposite sides. Now it is usually known that the best way to take your opponent's wall is by diagonal box fighting in this manner, and similarly in duos the same way to take the wall should be applied, but from opposite side. Akon and Cold use this tactic to make their enemies split up, and they end up pressuring and quickly finishing off one of the enemy and then his duo. This is probably second nature to them due to the number of repetitions they probably have doing this. If you analyze Akon and Cold's duo gameplay, you will see that they almost never take a duo's box from one side together. Rather, they always try to split and divert the attention of the enemies. It is to note that in endgames, of course, it will be harder to use this technique, so apply this tip according to your situation. Which leads me to the second tip, which is stop complaining. There are so many players in Fortnite that are always complaining about everything. As a duo, it must be one of the most infuriating things that your duo is complaining about everything from their ping, FPS, PC, console controller, keyboard, and etc. And the worst of all for a duo must be when your duo is blaming you for every mistake that you might make. If you're such a player, then make sure to stop. If you're someone who can't hold it in, then make sure to hold it in till the game finishes. I have seen several players that are just shouting at their teammates as soon as they die, and in turn make them panic and underperform. The third tip is to always stick with your teammates. 99% of the duos in Fortnite are always separate and are fighting their own fight rather than fighting together as a duo should. This is a point that is very common to hear, but it is surprising to see the amount of people that are essentially playing solos but with a duo. But even if your duo managed to stay away from you, then you should try to make it your own habit to stick with your teammate and help him wherever he needs help. If you notice the gameplay of Akon and Cold, arguably the best duo right now, you will see that they are almost always together, only splitting up to diagonally box fight, and in endgames they always follow their roles and stay together in the same box. Which leads me to the fourth point, which is to follow roles. Roles are a set of responsibilities that are assigned to each teammate. There are mainly three roles in Fortnite, which are IGL, Fragger, and Support. The IGL does all of the callouts, while the Fragger is the most aggressive and usually is the best fighter that looks out for any refresh kills and supply mats to other teammates. The support role is one who carries more healables and, as the name suggests, supports his teammates. In a duo, there is the IGL and Fragger. While both of them also play a role of support, it is easier and more simpler for a duo to have one player doing all the callouts and the other player looking for refreshes. I know that the idea of roles for most duos just isn't as important for them, but make sure to apply these roles in your own duo and see the difference it might make on your gameplay. The fifth point is to not mute yourself. A majority of duos in Fortnite are mute for a long period of time, and even if they're unmuted, they don't communicate nearly as much as they should. Your duo cannot know what situation you are in if you aren't verbally telling them. So many players just don't talk until they are eliminated. They just open their mic after that saying that he's low or one's knocked. And something even better would be if they start spectating you and saying things like, how could you even miss that? Those types of teammates aren't the ones I recommend playing with. The sixth point is to be in separate boxes than your teammate. Now I know I said that you should stick with your teammate, but that doesn't necessarily mean to be in the same box of your teammate. Apart from endgame, both in early and mid game, staying in two separate boxes allows you to be more diverse, which makes it harder for your enemies to target you efficiently. Apart from this, you will notice yourself the amount of times you get interrupted by your teammates' edits and builds if you're within the same box.
Feeling?
Re-edit this? Re-edit this, right?
Are you serious?
Revisiting the first point of diagonal box fighting, it is always better to remain in two separate boxes and try to pressure the enemies from the sides, trying to pinch them in between. Which leads me to the seventh point, which is being more aggressive than your enemy. This isn't necessarily a point just for duos, but for each player individually. Learning how to apply pressure effectively alone is quite challenging. Having to learn this with your teammate is even more complex. If you have played enough duos, then you must have been in the situation in which you are on low ground with your duo and another duo is on height pressuring you instead of you pressuring them, and then you and your duo are considering if you should take height or just sit down, and because of your indecisiveness as a duo, you manage to get eliminated, usually by a third party. A bonus tip within this is to take height from two separate sides, which will help you divert and split the enemy's attention. This will 90% of the time at least allow one of you to take height over your enemy. The 8th point isn't a very known one, which is scale less equals play better. Scientific studies actually shows that doing any sort of activity under stress leads you to underperform in that particular activity. I have found the same to be true in Fortnite, as playing more stressful will lead you to play more scared, more defensive, and less confident in general. This is one of the factors that lets you play better in creative, but when it comes to playing in-game, you completely panic and go on to underperform. The only way to reduce stress in any Fortnite match is to be careless. Most comp players won't feel any stress playing casuals due to the amount of times they have already played it. Similarly, to play less stressful in tournaments, you must play a lot of tournaments, as that's the only way to play less panicked and become better with each game. The 9th point might be the only relevant one to this season, which is to get away from your teammates if you're knocked. If you play a lot of duos, especially in this season, then you will have noticed that there is a glitch which makes you unable to edit or remove your pickaxe if your teammate is knocked below you. I assume this is a glitch which might get fixed, but it is better to stay away from your teammate if you're knocked to avoid hindering their performance. And similarly, you should advise your teammate to stay away from you also if he is knocked. The 10th point is practicing creative with your teammate. A lot of Fortnite players play creative almost daily and usually practice quite often, but it's usually alone, playing solo zone wars, 1v1s and similar practice maps, but never seem to practice with their teammate. The best Fortnite map to practice with your duo by far in this season has to be Forever Zone Wars, which is a duo zone wars map that allows you to respawn after every time you get eliminated, making it so you don't have to wait as much between rounds. The 11th point is something I call live VOD reviewing. If you didn't know, VOD reviewing means looking over your previous gameplay to find any mistake or anything you might have done right. This allows you to actually improve with each game, but this isn't a widely used tactic due to the amount of times it takes to perform it. Instead of this, I do something called live VOD reviewing, in which I go over the mistakes I made live while playing and reflect on them after the match. Writing down these mistakes can help you rectify them, as you will remember it whenever you see it, wherever it's written down. It is to note that normal VOD reviewing is far better than live VOD reviewing, but this is something you can do on a smaller time scale. The 12th point is to rush your teammate as soon as you knock someone. If you see this specific clip of Clicks, you will notice that when he knocked a player, he immediately got out of the box and started spraying the opponent his teammate was fighting, and got him to almost 1 HP, which made it quite easy for his teammate to finish him off. Similarly, even you should try to quickly finish off your current opponent and rush to your teammate to help him out. Just knocking the player and rushing to your teammate should be your first priority. If you are finding it difficult to eliminate your current opponent, then spraying your teammate's opponent in between of your fight should help him enough to where he can finish them off. A note to keep in mind is that you should never be very far from your teammate in the first place unless you have full confidence in your fighting skill. The 13th point is having a tactic to initially engage in a fight with your opponent. An example is, if you watch the gameplay of Akon and Cold, you will notice that they usually try to approach their enemy in a sneaky and silent way to get a few extra shots in, or Akon usually distracts them from the front while Cold ambushes them from the back. This allows them to get a significant health advantage over their enemies and possibly knock one of them if they have a sniper. This tactic is quite effective and you should definitely try it yourself to witness the effectiveness of it. The 14th point is knowing when to retreat. As Sun Tzu said, build your opponent a golden bridge to retreat across. In this case, I advise you to retreat. A lot of duos have an ego of being set on eliminating the opponent that they are fighting, no matter the situation they might be in. This results in them getting eliminated. If you have less mats, less ammo, and barely any weapons, then you should definitely consider retreating if you could. Many pro duos retreat in uncertain situations, and so can you. The 15th and the most important point is, if needed, consider changing your duo. If your duo is toxic, as referred to in point 2, you both are having no chemistry in playing, then you should definitely consider changing your duo. I know this is a very looked down upon point due to the difficulty of finding a new duo and the difficulty of getting comfortable with your new duo. But if you think about it, then changing your duo might be a net benefit for your comp career and his comp career as well. This should be only done if it is quite necessary. Otherwise, I advise you to manage and change your duo's personality. That will be it for this video. If this video gave you any value, then you using code NSZ will be a great help to me, and you subscribing will be even better. Please and thank you.